You can't just bench more. If you want to bench more, there's other things you have to include. Alright guys, so in this one I'm just going to be going over the absolute basics, everything you need to know to start developing your own program so you can increase your bench press. So before I even get into any of the programming stuff about the volume, intensity, etc., the most important thing that you got to realize with bench press is that it's actually quite a technical lift. Out of the squat, bench and deadlift, I actually think that the bench press is the most technical, and improving your technique is like the most important thing. So most people in the gym, when they go to bench, they just lie down, flat on their back, and they just unwrap the bar, their shoulders forward. They don't even worry about what their legs are doing, and they just like press, which is fine, and that's like, it's fine if you're a complete beginner, and it's not dangerous or anything, and that's what most people do in the gym. But if you really want to maximize how much you're pressing from like in the bench press, I'd probably recommend going and watching a video. There's heaps of videos on YouTube that will explain it better than I could about how to have proper technique in the bench, right? And so that actually kind of leads onto the first thing I'm going to say about the bench press, and it has to do with the technique, and that's the frequency that you're benching. Most people that are doing some sort of beginner program for bodybuilding are probably benching like maybe once, maybe twice a week, maybe. If you want to increase your bench press like a powerlifter would, you're gonna want to increase your frequency, right? So people think that, oh well, if I increase my frequency, I'm not gonna have enough time to recover, and I'm gonna get really sore. If you're in a position where you're injury free and you have healthy shoulders, healthy everything, you shouldn't have to worry about this. Benching 3, 4, 5 times a week is not an insane amount of frequency. Trust me. I used to think when I was in school, I was with me and my friends were on like a program that we were doing the same program together, and we were benching like once a week or something. And then when I was like, oh, I want to increase my bench, I'm gonna start benching 3 times a week. They were like, bro, you're insane. What the hell? That's way too much frequency. You're gonna and it's not the case. Like I think the most I've ever benched is maybe I've gone up to like 4 times a week or something, and it's fine. Like if you like, I'm lucky. I have any problems with elbow tendonitis or any shoulder issues. But if you do, that could be a problem. But frequency really is going to be important, because for one, obviously the higher frequency, obviously more practice with the weight, right? So you're getting under the bar and doing the bench press, going through the movement more often. That's going to reinforce the technique. So if your technique's already, or if your technique is okay, benching say 4 times a week will take you in a few weeks. You'll be able to quickly go from having okay technique to having really dialed in, really good technique. And it's not just about, it might not be a thing that you could someone else could visibly see. So if someone were to come up to you in the gym and look at you benching, it might look fine. You might film yourself and it might look good, but you'll know that once you up your frequency and go do the same movement over and over again for weeks, you will start to dial it in. You'll feel like, from that like kinesthetic awareness sort of perspective, you'll be able to feel like, okay, my technique's getting dialed in. Like the leg drive, when you start to learn about how to properly use your legs in the bench press, you start to feel like, okay, I'm timing the leg driving well now. Like I'm getting good. I'm getting the bar off my chest. It's coming off the chest nicer. It's feeling more pop in the bar, like that kind of thing. And so that'll come relatively quickly. It should, if you increase your frequency. And so basically in a program, that's probably going to look like, so you might start around 70%. If you've been doing some sort of like bodybuilding sort of, whatever you've been doing at the moment, basically with your bench press, you might have been benching once or twice a week. You're probably going to want to start probably around the 70% range, and be trying to do, and be doing higher reps just to start, maybe from the 8 to 12 range, and trying just to up the frequency. You wouldn't at this stage be like increasing the volume heaps. Like you don't want to just go from benching once a week and doing 3 sets to then, oh, I'm just going to add a set every week, or I'm just going to add heaps of sets, because that's going to, that won't do as much for you in terms of the technique, like reinforcement. And yeah, you might not be able to recover enough. So if once you've gotten to the point where your frequency is really high, so you might be bench pressing 4 times per week, like I said, maybe you might be increasing the intensity very slowly and gradually throughout the weeks. But by that point, after say about like 3-4 weeks of doing that, you're going to have accumulated lots of fatigue, which is a good thing, but lots of fatigue and that local fatigue around those movements, and you might be starting to feel like, you know, the sort of slight like overuse, not overuse injuries, but like you're feeling that, okay, yeah, I've been bench pressing a lot for the past few weeks. So that would be a good opportunity to reduce the frequency drastically to allow for more recovery, and then sort of go from like a more hypertrophy focused sort of workout, and then switch the focus to sort of strength and increasing the loads to where you're feeling like you're having to produce like maximal force, right? So up until this point, the workouts, like when you're benching, you'll be going up to reps where it's feeling like more of like a bodybuilding thing, right? So it's like more, you might feel burn in the muscles. It might be sort of like every time you re-rack the weight, you're feeling like a nice pump, right? So you want to take that and then hopefully take some of the good adaptations you made from that, and some of the good strength, some of the good technique that you've built from that, and then turn that into sort of focusing on more strength. So the workouts are going to feel different. It's going to be more about like having heavier loads to learn how to deal with those heavy loads. It's not going to be like getting a pump, really like a really sick pump every time you bench press. It's going to be about learning how to actually deal with heavier loads and seeing how your technique can cope when you're increasing intensity. Obviously, you're not going to go from doing 10 reps to then 1 week going, okay, cool, I'm going to max out sick. I'm going to start doing like singles and doubles. Like, no, it's not that. It's just the most basic thing is going to be like a 5-3-1, or like I'd say even like going from like an 8, it's like a 5 to 3 to a 1 kind of thing. So you're starting with the higher reps, do high frequency, then you lower the frequency, lower the reps, and then by lowering the reps, you're increasing the percentage of your 1 rep max, so increasing the intensity to compensate for the reps that you're decreasing, and that's going to teach you like how to actually deal with those weights. So you're using heavier weights, so I guess you could call this like sort of a strength phase, so that you might go back to benching like 2 to 3 times a week, maybe 1 even, and the volume across the whole week will be the same, although the reps will be lower and the frequency will be lower. The volume in the workouts might be higher, so you're not doing 3 sets of 10, you're doing 5 sets of 5 or something like this, right? Not exactly the same, but similar, around the same. And then these workouts is where you're going to really start to want to try and add the weight, like increase the amount of weight that you're putting on the bar every week, and you'll probably be getting up to maybe around the like 80% range. So this whole time, throughout these weeks you've been doing this, you would have been doing your accessory movements, like maybe some other shoulder compound movements, so some overhead pressing, some shoulder pressing, those kinds of movements, and then also your tricep isolation. I think I would recommend, for if you're doing a lot of benching, that's gonna use especially one head of the tricep. So then for the tricep isolation, doing the overhead tricep extensions like this with a cable machine, that'll use more of the other head of the tricep that isn't used during the bench press. You can still do tricep push downs like this, you know, dips and all this other stuff, push ups even if you want, or yeah, maybe not push ups, but accessory movements like this will help you with the bench press. Obviously, you can't if you want to bench, you can't just bench more. If you want to bench more, there's other things that you have to include. But then when you get into, after all that, after the high frequency sort of phase, if you want to call it that, and then the strength phase, I guess, that's when you can, if you've done all that, that's when you can start to talk about sort of peaking and sort of like specializing in the bench to prepare for a 1 rep max. So basically how you want to do that is you've been training around the 80%, you've been increasing the weight, you might have even made some PRs, like some 5 rep max PRs that you know, like every day, every week you're increasing the weight, or maybe you're not, but like you feel like you're feeling like your technique is getting stronger and stronger. So that's when you might start to think about going down to like the 2 to 3 rep range, right? So you might go in one day and just trying to hit like 3 heavy singles or 2 heavy doubles. That's probably good. And then and then later in that week, you go and hit 1 heavy triple and then do some back down sets. So what it would look like is, say Monday, okay, you warm up, and then you do you go up to say 90% of your 1 rep max, and you do 2 sets of 2, and then you go back down to say like 75%, and then do like a 5 by 5 or something, or four sets of 5, and then so that's Monday, and then Tuesday rest, or to do something else, Wednesday something else, and then Friday, and then Thursday something else, and then Friday, on Friday you warm up and then work up to a heavy triple, so maybe the high 80%, like 85%, and do 3 reps, and then back down to 75 or something, and do like your 4 sets of 5, right? So you can do this sort of style of workout for another few weeks. Yeah, and during this time you'll be cutting back on the accessories that you're doing. So the tricep isolation, and maybe some of the compound or the isolation for the shoulders. You'll be cutting back on that to lower the volume. To lower the volume and allow for more recovery to dissipate some of that fatigue. So basically, like really simply, like the theory is generally that you've been training like a high volume, and you've been increasing the volume, and then the intensity's been down here, and then as the weeks go past, the volume lowers and the intensity goes up, and then goes like this, right? And then so now at the end your volume's actually getting lower, but then your intensity is still high, or your intensity is increasing. So then when you feel like you're ready to hit a 1 rep max, this all in total from like week 1 to now, this may have been like a 10-week period. So then now you feel like you're ready to hit 1 rep max, you want to have at least a week, I'd say, of sort of like a taper. So you'll go in and you'll do the similar workouts to what you've been doing, but instead of working up to a heavy triple or a couple heavy doubles, you'll maybe work up to like 60%, or maybe 60 to 70%, and you'll just do like 6 singles, right? So what this will do is obviously it allows you to get some practice of the movement. So if you're preparing for a 1 rep max, you want to be doing the singles to prepare, because that's going to be specific to what you're trying to do. So as you get closer to the 1 rep max, you want to get more and more specific, but the 60 to 70% intensity, that's going to allow you to recover, because you don't want to be going in and trying to obviously like max out before you've allowed your body to actually like recover from all this volume you've been accumulating and all this fatigue you've been accumulating. So once you've done this, obviously no like really intense accessories after all this, just sort of focusing on the bench press. Once you've done that for at least a week, that sort of taper, then you can then you should be ready for a 1 rep max. So by this point, your joints, ligaments, tendons, your actual muscle, everything should be fully prepared, and there should be like very low risk of injury to actually do this 1 rep max. So obviously, if you just go into a gym, and especially with bench press, it can be very dangerous. If you just go in, you're like, oh, okay, let's just hit a max, you just lie down on the bench and just try and just keep adding weight until you need the spotter to help you. That's not the right way to do it at all. You want to make sure your body's prepared to do this. When people are preparing to run marathons, they don't just wake up one day and go, all right, cool, let's just see how far I can run. Like they don't do that. They prepare, they work up to it, obviously. So that's just like just a really basic overview of how you're gonna probably go about programming for like a maximal strength sort of bench press program. Another little side note, I guess, during this whole time with this strength phase, you might not see very much like a very noticeable increase in muscle mass, right? So although you might be adding a lot to your bench press, like I know for me, like I could, when I went from being able to bench press like 90 for a 1 rep max to 100, or like from 80 to 90 to 100, I was focusing a lot like in those like short times where I was increasing that, because I didn't just like, it wasn't just like a slow linear like 80 and then the next few months 90 and the next few months 100. During those times that I was focusing on increasing the bench, I didn't see any significant muscle gain, obviously, right? So the whole thing about like training for size versus strength, like obviously if you increase the size of your muscle, you'll automatically be able to lift more weight, because you just the physical like the amount of tissue that's actually contracting is just more. Makes sense. But when you're training specifically for strength for a particular movement, just training to try and increase just purely your bench press, you might not see a lot of muscle growth, because those lower rep ranges are not optimal for hypertrophy. But anyway, so I hope you like that video, just like a basic overview of sort of programming for strength. Like, subscribe, comment. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.